Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
7:36 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. Coming up at 8:05, Lawrence Wright, author of a brand new controversial book about Scientology. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson.
And on the Newsmaker hotline right now, it's always my favorite part of the week when we get to sit down and chat to Stuart Varney, because Stuart Varney, he knows stuff. And he explains stuff that I have a hard time understanding. So he's on the line now, and I got stuff I want to talk to you about, Lanny. Stuart. We had Lanny Davis on earlier, and I'm still irritated about it.
The cruelest cut of all.
I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. I deeply apologize, Stuart.
Go ahead, Brian. Ambush me. What do you want to know about?
No, really, there's a couple of great stories out here. And one we talked about yesterday, and people were sort of up in arms about it. This story about Phil Mickelson, the golfer, who says that he is leaving or thinking about leaving California because the taxes have just gotten too high.
Yeah.
And you know, it gets to the point where some people are saying, man, when I'm paying 62% of everything that I earn to either state or federal taxes or local taxes, then something's out of balance here.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Brian. What was worse was that the left ambushed Phil Mickelson, forced him to apologize, for heaven's sake. Do you know, this Professor Berman at Syracuse University, he did a piece in Forbes.com.
Yeah, I saw this.
You saw that? He said Mickelson's just lucky to be making all this money. He says, stop whining and give thanks that you're making more than most other people. That's disgraceful. Well, we invited Mr. Berman onto my show.
Oh, did you?
We booked him, and then he canceled.
There's a shot.
I bet he did.
The man is an intellectual coward, and what he did was disgraceful. Since when has it been fair for the government to take 2/3 of your income? I don't care how much money you make. 2/3 is grossly unfair, and I think, frankly, un-American.
Hey, Stuart, we've gotten word now about the Keystone XL pipeline. The governor of Nebraska said, hey, no problem, we've done the environmental study, we want it. And now, apparently, 53 senators, 53 now, that means some Democrats are on board, too, have written to the president saying, we are ready to go with this, Mr. President, let's approve the Keystone pipeline. Do you think it's going to happen?
I think this is big news. This is more than a glimmer of hope for the pipeline. I think this is a ray of sunshine. You're right. 53 senators signed the letter saying, Mr. President, let's build the pipeline. 9 Democrats on board with this thing, and that's a majority in the Senate, 53 votes.
Yes.
Now, I think that really gives the pipeline a jolt. We also heard yesterday that one of the big natural gas companies is going to open up to the EPA so they can figure out exactly what happens with this fracking, which is a way of getting a lot of the natural gas underneath America. You combine the pipeline and the fracking, and you just may have real energy independence for America, a surge in high-quality jobs and no cost to the taxpayer. And I think this is a real shot in the arm for the overall economy if it all goes through.
But you know what's going to happen. You know that the environmentalists are going to put pressure on the president, saying we can't have those hydrocarbons being burned.
Of course, it makes no logic sense, Stuart Varney, because hasn't Canada already said that if we don't build the pipeline to pipe that oil down to the Gulf of Mexico and let it be an export for the U.S., then they're just going to build the pipeline westward, have it go to Vancouver, and it'll end up being an export to China.
Precisely.
So the oil's going to get burnt either way.
The oil will be produced, it will be burned either in China or here or someplace else. That's going to happen whether the environmentalists like it or not. And then we have fracking for natural gas. America's emissions, the amount of CO2s we're pumping out there, are actually down in recent years because we're using natural gas to replace coal. Surely we should get on board with fracking, produce more natural gas, and get emissions down some more. It makes a lot of sense, but not to environmentalists.
All right. So I noticed after hours we got some details about Apple, and they weren't good. And Apple stock after hours trading has gone down. Netflix, by the way, it's just going through the roof. Now, what's going on there?
Tale of two companies. Apple reports flat profits. Actually, they were record profits, but not as much as some investors wanted, and the thing plunged. It'll open up on Wall Street this morning around $460.
It was at like $700 at one point, wasn't it?
About 4 months ago, it was $703, I believe. So that's a tumble and a half.
Yeah, I'm glad I got out when I did.
Yeah. Netflix signs up 4 million new subscribers. That's a big deal.
Yep.
They made a profit, not a loss. That stock's up about 30% just overnight. Taylor, two companies.
And Stuart, we talk about Hollywood a lot on this show and the movie industry. How does the growth and success of Netflix affect what goes on over in Hollywood?
It changes the distribution pattern for movies. Studios no longer make the bulk of their profits showing the movies that they come up with in theaters.
Wow.
They don't make the money out of DVD sales. They make the money, well, not all of it, but a good chunk of it, by selling their content to these streaming providers. That's how you make the money.
And isn't that something? And by the way, this is an example of the free market determining, or accommodating the consumer's choice. It's all about choice and convenience, and we can just sit in the privacy of our own home and pick what we want to watch. I mean, are we going to start seeing movies released direct to Netflix now?
Yes.
And just bypass the cost of going to the theaters?
Yes, you are. That is going to happen. Frankly, it may be happening already. But you're absolutely right. This is an example of the free market. This is how it works. And surprisingly enough, Hollywood, the great collectivists, they're the ones who are going to benefit from this.
Yeah.
It's odd how the world works.
But Apple, on the other hand, I mean, this was the company that was unstoppable. And people thought for a while, man, there is no end to what Apple can do. How much of this is tied, do you think, to the passing of Steve Jobs?
A good deal of it. Since he passed, there have been some missteps by Apple,
Yep.
And do they have a stream of new revolutionary products coming to the market that will boost the stock price even more? The answer to that one is no. At this point, we don't think so.
Hey, Stuart,
Down.
really fast, we've talked with you in the past about the debt limit and how that is going. What do you think of what the House did yesterday in terms of the 3-month extension and sort of moving it in little increments like this so that the president keeps having to come back and we keep having the conversation?
Conservatives hate it. I think it's good strategy on the part of the Republicans. Good strategy. The Senate has to come up with a budget, first time in 4 years. It's going to be tough to get a radical budget through this Senate. I think it's a good thing. Good strategy.
All right. It got the imprimatur from the one and only Stuart Varney.
That's all you could ever hope for right there. Stuart, it is always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.